Hi everyone, thanks for joining me again. It's Victoria here, founder and CEO of Credit Fix Solutions, and I have an amazing guest speaker here today, Mr. John Tindall. John, thank you so much for joining us. And John has kindly offered to share a little bit about number one, his own personal experience when it comes to his own credit report and how Credit Fix Solutions can best help people when it comes to fixing issues that are stopping them from going to finance. So, John, do you just want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, my name is John from Accumulus Home Loans, as Victoria mentioned, and um, I spend my days these days helping a lot of people get the right finances that they need to best serve their future interests, whether that be buying your next home, an investment, or looking to do something with your money. And a long time ago, I was just like many people, trying to get my loans and trying to work out what I would do about my future. And yeah, I had a bit of challenges and difficulty in my journey, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I've learned firsthand the importance of having professionals there to support you to improve your financial circumstances so that you can open up more opportunities in your future.
Yeah, it's a really great point because a lot of times, and we're seeing customers ourselves through our businesses, right, who are stuck because of either late payments or they've just applied too much, or maybe they've got something more serious on their report, like a default or a court action. And we know that through education as well, a lot of it can be fixed if we can be proactive and give that education out. If you don't mind just sharing a little bit about your story.
Absolutely. So, a number of years ago, and in a, let's just say, less than ideal relationship, I went into some pretty difficult challenges in that time. And I sort of went out on the front foot and I put myself at risk by covering all the bills, covering all the costs. And what that led to was this slowly unable to win scenario where I was just paying money hand over fist to pay for other things that then started to cause me to be late on my bills, late on my costs. I started to be in a place where I was quite significantly in default, in arrears of a home loan, an investment property at the time, and also with several bills and utilities. And let's just say my finances were not looking great at that point in time. And I guess maybe it was the mistake of youth, or maybe it was the mistake of not understanding the impacts of small things that would have on my future. I didn't know at that time what a credit file was. I didn't understand what a credit history was. And I didn't realize these things that I thought were simple and honest mistakes would actually follow me for a long time thereafter. So that was the position that I found myself in, where all of a sudden I was struggling with my default, struggling with my arrears, and I needed to make some changes to my finances, but I couldn't do anything because my credit history and my credit file looked so negative. I was deadlocked. I actually had really no choices at that point in time, and that's when I got introduced to you.
Yeah, and I always remember our conversation over the years and should be so proud of yourself where you're at today, which we'll get to soon. So I remember having an initial conversation with you, and like many of our clients, you were quite, sort of ashamed and embarrassed. And I think off the back of our conversation was, you're not a bad person, and a lot of people out there with bad credit, it's not that you're bad payers, it's that you've just been through really, really bad times. And I often share my story, which is a bit similar to yours, bad relationship, bad credit, went through a divorce, got left with nowhere to live. Of course, your credit report's going to be damaged. But coming to a safe place like us, I suppose, and I know that you had this experience, was, oh, okay, wow, I don't need to be ashamed and I don't need to be embarrassed. Even the CEO has been through crap in life, and we all have. It's just the ups and downs in life. But I was so happy that we could get a great result for you and fix up your credit report. So yeah, it was great, a great story.
I actually remember when I first met you, the first thing you said to me, and that, I think it was one of the first sentences, was, "This is not a place of judgment. This is a place of solutions," was one of the first things you ever said to me. And you actually opened up with the truth about some of your past, which really dropped my fears of that embarrassment, as you mentioned. And I mean, I remember I came to you with defaults, arrears, and problems on my files. And I think you, first of all, you spoke to me about what the future could look like. You assessed the file, you had a look at certain different issues that I had, and you said, well, we could possibly look at doing this, we can look at doing that. And I think we came up with like a 6 week strategy at first. And the thing that amazed me was not only did you have a 6 week strategy that worked, it did work in 6 weeks like you promised it would, but it was the consistent contact from you at each step, which I think made me a lot less scared and a lot less stressed. And for the sake of, I think back in the days, it was a couple of $1,000s to get everything fixed up on my file. But that investment in fixing up my history has then meant that I was able to move on and purchase my own first home, which I was extremely excited and able to do. And fixing my credit file unlocked hundreds of thousands of borrowing capacity because of the lenders that I could now access and get my first home with. And since then, and this is one of the more exciting things, it's actually allowed me to get into my next home thereafter. And I was a little bit excited because when we caught up the other day, I mentioned it's several years later, many years later, of course, but my credit file has never dropped below a score of under 1,000 ever since. And that was the that was the training and the learning that you gave me. You told me about all these things that I had no idea how they could impact my scenario. And I've just simply applied those lessons and methods ever since. I've never dropped below 1,000. And now I've gone from a person in significant adverse situations to not only just buying their first home, but I'm now able to upgrade and buy a what could be seen as like a dream home, like a forever home. So very exciting and very grateful to you for that.
Well, you've been putting the hard work in and you took the time to listen and get educated because, and often as the position you were in, it's the same for many families when they're going for finance is it's at that point that they're looking at their credit report. And then often they're just having to be reactive to bad marks. And, there's things, for example, out there, if you've missed payments, usually we can't fix those. If you've used, buy now, pay later facilities too often. So the fact that you listened and then adapted that into, okay, how do I keep my score at 1,000? And as you know, we have a great credit reporting guide and we're handing that out 20 to 30 times a day. We're sending it out to, the mortgage associations for brokers to have a look at and also share with their clients. If you've got a client who's on a journey and you were on a journey too, say they're settling in 12 months' time on a construction deal, and we want all brokers to know that it's so important to educate them at that point because if they get excited and go shopping and go to Harvey Norman and go to JB Hi-Fi and start buying things like barbecues for their new build, their score potentially could be 400 points lower by the time you get to settlement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also the it's not just what and it's not just necessarily the volume of inquiry as well. Sometimes it's also particularly what you're going for. That also really hurts, which I didn't understand at the time. I just thought, well, two credit cards is not that part of a problem, for example, back then. But now I realize two of the credit card, especially if one of them's got some issues, actually shows quite poorly. So it's not just volume, it's type of files, but you taught me how to navigate that and how to make sure that I'd also never be at risk of exposing myself to so much trouble anymore. So
No,
very
and
grateful
it's
to
great.
learn that.
And when we caught up, you mentioned that you now share your journey with your clients so that they're not feeling uncomfortable about a slightly low credit score. How do you find that travels with clients?
I think people are nervous. As a mortgage broker, we often see really deep into people's personal lives. We see every dollar they spend, where they've been, where they want to go to, and it's very scary to be so vulnerable and have someone literally just go through every part of your life because money in a first world country tends to be what controls a lot of our lives. And by seeing when my clients can see that I've been where they are, I've been worse actually than they are, when they realize what I've done over my years and how I've learned to control my spending, how I've learned to make sure I don't repeat those mistakes, it goes from a place of fearful to a place of feeling understood. And when they feel understood, the fear drops and they start to open up a lot more, and you can have a really productive conversation. And then that transitions into hope. They start to realize, well, if John's come out of it, maybe I can too. And then it's not just hope. Very soon after that, it's a plan. You can work out when they will be able to buy a home, not if, when. And when they have that plan and they have that goal, and now I say, okay, these are the things you need to do to get your credit fixed up to that point, people get extremely motivated and very focused. So
Look, I mean, I
it
think that's
changes the
just,
whole story.
yeah, it's fantastic that you're doing that. You're giving them a light at the end of the tunnel. And we're having that conversation every day. And I'm always very mindful that even if I can't help them now, to educate them and say, listen, in a year's time, in 2 years' time, you're going to be okay as long as you do one, two, and three, and make sure you go back and speak to John about your lending options. So I am so excited that you're sharing that journey. And again, it's something that we shouldn't be ashamed about. We should be able to talk about. We should be able to talk about mental health, all the things that are going on. But yeah, by sharing your journey, you're opening the door for them to feel comfortable. And that's a really, really huge thing. No, thank you so much for sharing everything today. And what would be your best three tips for any brokers or suggestions? Why would they reach out to Credit Fix Solutions?
Number one, I think Credit Fix Solutions is very personable, and you need that. You need someone who will connect with and understand your client and help them understand that it's okay and there's a potential solution down the road. Number two is there's nothing lost. There is absolutely no risk. There's no loss of any client or anything like that. It's better to ask and possibly not have an answer than to never ask at all. And sometimes the doors that can be opened just from one conversation with you can make a big change to your clients' futures. And number three, I would say the consistency of good, clean, clear updates from your team as a mortgage broker let me know that my client is reliably on a path to opening up more credit options because they've got such a dedicated and well experienced person on the books helping them get that journey fixed up. It's all for a mortgage broker. It feels to me like my clients are all but guaranteed to get a better home because of what Credit Fix Solutions do.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm really glad that we've been able to help you and your clients over the years. So thank you for trusting us with your very valuable clients. And I have set it up as your support service provider. So I consider that I'm an extension of your business. So that is firstly and most importantly, the reason why we give back the very honest feedback. And plus, I like to sleep at night and I probably couldn't steal a packet of gum from a servo, right? So that being said, yeah, and I mean, just a note for brokers, be careful of paying up front with credit repair companies. A good credit repair company will, number one, as John said, run an assessment, talk to your client, and most importantly, listen. Actively listen, like what's happened in the past, what are they trying to achieve, and only onboard them if credit repair is going to be a benefit and they're charging once they finish their work. Really, really important. But yeah, thanks so much for today. John, have you got any other important tips maybe for any consumers listening?
What I can say is you can't change your past, but you can absolutely change your future. Having a plan and being disciplined to follow that plan, you can completely change who you are today versus who you could be in 5 years' time. It's a hell of a lot better than who you were 5 years ago. So you have the complete control and ability to change your future. And maybe it starts with one phone call to Credit Fix Solutions.
100%. Or if you'd like to just share your details too, how can, if a consumer's listening, as they do on our YouTube channel, hello to my 24 followers. If you'd like to reach out to yourself, what would be the best way to do that?
So I'm just called JT for anyone who does decide to reach out to me. But best way to get me is by mobile 0432056641. Or you can reach out to me. It's JT at Accumulus Holdings, ACCUMULUS HOLDINGS.com.au. I'm here and always happy to help anyone who wants to see what their options are in the future.
You're a great operator. Thank you so much for today. And I'll put all of JT's details in the chat below in our YouTube channel, so they'll all have those there. Hopefully you get to speak to some wonderful families and help them out with their future finance strategies too. But anyway, thank you so much for today, and thank you for sharing your testimonial and your experience of using our services. 10 years in business. I personally handle all the cases. As you know, it's 8,000 cases to date, which is very cool. Just a bit of credit repair, just a bit. But yeah, always happy to help, and thank you so much again for today.
Thank you to you, Victoria. Very, very grateful.
Pleasure.